Buju, Tansei, Wadzie, Han, Edlanete. Welcome! This video series is presented by the Speech Language team at the Manitoba First Nations Education Resource Center. My name is Kelly Ring-Wiklo, and I'm a speech language pathologist. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video on the First Nations Storytelling Lessons and Materials Kit. In this video, you will learn about the Manitoba First Nations Education Resource Center resource called First Nations Storytelling Lessons and Materials Kit. You will learn about the development rationale, connections to curriculum, an overview of the contents and invitations for play, the lesson plans, and implementation including response to intervention, roles of staff, co-teaching models, and additional considerations. The purpose of the First Nations Storytelling Lessons and Materials Kit is for students to see themselves, their communities, and their cultures represented in literature. As Peltier observed in 2014, storytelling is familiar and relevant to First Nations children. The kit facilitates the development of the storytelling skills necessary for the successful acquisition of literacy, and creates opportunities for children to play and interact with stories to develop their storytelling skills. It aligns with the Manitoba English Language Arts and Physical Education Health curricula. The kit was developed for the Manitoba First Nations Education Resource Center. As the creator of the kit and author of the lesson plans, I observed a need for materials linked to literature by Indigenous authors that aligned with the Manitoba curricula. This First Nations storytelling resource bridges the gap in resources that represent First Nations children, their cultures, and their communities, and supports educational outcomes, all while using the traditional First Nations teaching tool of storytelling. The kit uses 5 picture books by Indigenous authors as the basis for targeting outcomes in the Manitoba English Language Arts and Physical Education Health curricula. The 5 books are Hidden Friends by Kimberly Kakagemic, Warren Whistles at the Sky by David A. Robertson, Ariel's Moccasins by Lawrence Hay, Sometimes I Feel Like a Fox by Danielle Daniel, and Wild Berries by Julie Flett. In choosing stories for this resource, the following criteria were used. First Nations children as characters, engaging and relatable stories and topics, interesting vocabulary and story structure, a variety of First Nations languages or communities represented, preference for Indigenous authors and illustrators, a balance of male and female characters, and availability of books in print. The lesson plans target kindergarten to grade 2 outcomes for the Manitoba English Language Arts curriculum, with a focus on the listening, speaking, viewing, and representing strands. Each lesson plan lists the specific outcomes targeted for each book. The lesson plans were not meant to be exhaustive, so educators should feel free to augment the lessons with their own ideas to support the curriculum. In addition, some lesson plans target kindergarten to grade 2 outcomes for the Manitoba Physical Education Health curriculum, with a focus on personal and social management. Specifically, Knowledge Strand C, Mental Emotional Development. Each lesson plan lists the specific outcomes targeted. There are 4 main components of the kit: copies of each of the 5 books, the lesson plan book, materials for activities, and manipulatives. Each kit contains 1 copy of each of the 5 books that serve as the basis for the lessons. The lesson plan book is the key component to the kit. It contains detailed lesson plans, curriculum outcomes, and additional resources. Please refer to the lesson plan book for more detail about each component of the kit, including sources for the research cited in this video. Each lesson and activity is accompanied with visuals to support a variety of learners. Manipulatives for the kit were carefully chosen to reflect the stories in each book. The purpose of the manipulatives is to give students an opportunity to extend their understanding of the stories through play. Examples of manipulatives included in the kit are people, forest animals, trees, and Play-Doh. Teachers are invited to add any items to the kit that they think are important. The lesson plan book includes a table of contents, introduction, a list of kit contents, invitations for play, lessons, and references. Play is intentionally a focus of the lessons because we know children engage in play as a natural way to learn about themselves and the world, as written by Manitoba First Nations Education Resource Center in 2015. Play and exploration are on a continuum, as illustrated by Miller and Alman in 2009, with research showing that a balance of the two approaches on the central part of the continuum, a classroom rich in child-initiated play, for example, imaginative play, and a playful classroom with focused learning, for example, land-based education, is the most beneficial for children's learning. Child-initiated play includes play centers, Play-Doh and sensory bins, and making characters and props. Teacher-guided learning includes show and tell, hands-on experiences, and theater. Each lesson plan in this resource includes suggestions for including child-initiated play and teacher-guided learning. Examples for each type of play directly related to each story are provided. The lesson plan for each book includes a book summary, materials from the kit, additional materials needed, curriculum outcomes, and lesson activities, which include the lesson objective, materials needed, and key ideas. The lesson plans focus on the listening, speaking, viewing, and representing strands of the Manitoba English Language Arts curriculum and target the following skills: predicting, vocabulary, text to self connections, emotions, story retelling, social skills, categorizing, and compare contrast. All lessons include the following activities: mystery bag, picture walk, read aloud, learning new words, reflecting on own experiences, and emotions. All lessons also include a combination of the following activities: beginning, middle, and end sequencing, story elements, describing or matching, comparing key concepts, and sorting. As mentioned previously, each lesson plan in this resource includes suggestions for including child-initiated play and teacher-guided learning. Examples for each type of play directly related to each story are provided. At the end of each lesson plan, there is a Connections to Resources section. This section highlights the specific activities or lessons from other MFNERC created or adapted resources that link to the themes and ideas of the book from the kit. Resources include Mow the Mouse, Social Skills and the Seven Sacred Teachings, Early Years Language and Literacy Bins, and A Time for Learning, A Time for Joy, a Manitoba education and advanced learning resource. Next, we will walk through part of the lesson plan for one of the books. The lesson plan for each book includes a book summary, a list of materials from the kit, additional materials needed, curriculum outcomes, and lesson activities, including the objective, materials, and key ideas. The lesson plan for Ariel's moccasins can be found on page 9 of the lesson plan book. In this story, Ariel must rescue one of her birthday moccasins made by Kukum when it is stolen by her dog Chase. Materials needed from the kit are a copy of the book, a bag, story objects such as the girl figure, Kukum figure, moccasins, and husky dog, new words pictures, emotions pictures, ask for permission pictures, beginning, middle, end symbols, story sequencing pictures, story structure ruler and cards, and story schema graphic organizer, which can be found on page 80 of the lesson plan book. Additional materials needed are chart paper, markers, and tape. The Manitoba English Language Arts curriculum outcomes for kindergarten to grade 2 fall under language as sense making, language as system, language as power and agency, and language as exploration and design. Various other curricular outcomes may align with the lesson plan activities depending on how teachers implement the lessons. The physical education health curriculum outcomes for kindergarten to grade 2 fall under personal and social management, specifically Knowledge Strand C, mental emotional development. The substrands targeted are feelings and emotions, including self expression and loss and grief. Additional substrands addressed are elements of stress and effects of stress. The next part of the lesson plan are the activities. The first two activities address the skill of predicting. The objective is for students to make predictions about the book before reading. The first activity is Mystery Bag. Materials needed from the kit are a bag and story objects such as the girl figure, Kukum figure, moccasins, and husky dog. Key ideas for this activity include showing students the mystery bag and explaining that it holds clues for making guesses about the storyline. Having students pick an object out of the bag, show the object, and say what it is. You can help explain the objects if necessary. And, using the objects, have students make guesses about the storyline. The next activity, which also targets predicting, is a picture walk. Materials needed are a copy of the book, chart paper, and a marker. Key ideas for this activity include show students the book cover and ask what clues they see about the story. As a class, look at the pictures in the book for storyline clues, but hold off reading the words. Discuss the clues in the pictures. Some discussion prompts include what clues do we see on this page? What is happening here? What does this picture make you think about? Finally, write down or have students write down and post the clues in the classroom for later review. Following the activities in the lesson plan is a section for invitations for play. The play center idea for Ariel's moccasins is to act out or extend the story. Prop ideas include a husky dog, moccasins, a laundry basket and clothes, a blue mat or rug, and blocks, wood, or cardboard boxes. Teachers can consider decorating the walls to look like the land with the sky, trees, water, and other landscape features from your geographic region. Pretend play ideas include pretend to be the characters in the story, or make changes to the story, for example, different ways to get the moccasins back. The last section of the lesson plan includes connections to resources. This section lists resources and specific lessons connected to Ariel's moccasins. Lessons from Mow the Mouse Speech and Language Development Program, sections from A Time for Learning, A Time for Joy, a resource for kindergarten teachers, lessons from Social Skills and the Seven Sacred Teachings, and materials from the Manitoba First Nations Education Resource Center's language and literacy bins, including the emotions bin and clothing, body parts, and hygiene bin, are all additional resources that can be used by teachers to support the lessons for Ariel's moccasins. Hopefully, those examples from the lesson plan for Ariel's moccasins will give you a better idea of what's included in each of the lesson plans for the books from the kit. The First Nations Storytelling Kit was developed to be used with whole classrooms to support English language arts and physical education health curricula outcomes as part of Tier 1 in the Response to Intervention model. In this next section, we'll talk about response to intervention, the roles of staff in implementing the kit in the classroom, co-teaching models and those best suited for using the kit, and other considerations for implementation in the classroom. According to Manitoba Education and Advanced Learning, response to intervention, or RTI, uses a three-tier service delivery model that represents a continuum of increasingly intense interventions that correspond to the responsiveness of students in both academics and social and emotional learning. In 2017, Anderson developed the Response to Intervention Support document utilizing the Indigenous Holistic Service Delivery Model for Manitoba Education and Advanced Learning. She labeled the three tiers as Tier 1, Success for All, Tier 2, Success for Some, and Tier 3, Success for Few. The First Nations Storytelling Kit was developed to be used with whole classrooms as part of Tier 1, Success for All. Characteristics of Tier 1 intervention include the classroom teacher as a main driver. All students are included. It is proactive. It uses high quality and differentiated curriculum and instruction. It includes ongoing progress monitoring and formative assessment, and classroom-based assessments. Tier 1 is successful for 80% of students. The lessons in the kit were developed to be delivered with a co-teaching approach, including the classroom teacher, resource teacher, school speech-language pathologist, and educational assistants. While implementing the kit lessons, the role of the classroom teacher is to provide universal programming and instruction, collaborate and co-teach with the school speech-language pathologist, provide summative and formative assessment, work with the educational assistants and provide training as necessary, create a physical environment safe for learning for students, and participate in professional development related to the First Nations Storytelling Lessons and Materials Kit. The role of the resource teacher includes providing support to teachers and planning for students with additional needs, co-teaching lessons as needed, consulting with classroom teachers and the school speech-language pathologist, and working with educational assistants to provide training as necessary. The role of the school speech-language pathologist is to collaborate and co-teach with the classroom teacher, to consult with classroom and resource teachers, to support teachers in planning for students with additional needs, to work with educational assistants and provide training as necessary, and to provide staff with professional development related to the First Nations Storytelling Lessons and Materials Kit. The role of the educational assistant is to reinforce instructional strategies with small groups of students, to provide one-on-one support for students with additional needs, to model appropriate and expected behavior or learning outcomes for students, to support and deliver the appropriate programming for individualized student plans, and to discuss and collaborate with the classroom teacher, resource teacher, and speech-language pathologist as appropriate. Next, we're going to talk about the different models of co-teaching. Friend and Cook outlined 6 models of co-teaching. The first one is one teach, one observe. One of the advantages in co-teaching is that more detailed observation of students engaged in the learning process can occur. With this approach, for example, co-teachers can decide in advance what types of specific observational information to gather during instruction and can agree on a system for gathering the data. Afterward, the teachers should analyze the information together. The second model is one teach, one assist. In a second approach to co-teaching, one person would keep primary responsibility for teaching, while the other professional circulated through the room providing unobtrusive assistance to students as needed. The third model is parallel teaching. On occasion, student learning would be greatly facilitated if they just had more supervision by the teacher or more opportunity to respond. In parallel teaching, the teachers are both covering the same information, but they divide the class into two groups and teach simultaneously. In the fourth model, station teaching, teachers divide content and students. Each teacher then teaches the content to one group and subsequently repeats the instruction for the other group. If appropriate, a third station could give students an opportunity to work independently. Another model is alternative teaching. In most class groups, occasions arise in which several students need specialized attention. In alternative teaching, one teacher takes responsibility for the large group while the other works with a smaller group. And in the last model, team teaching, both teachers are delivering the same instruction at the same time. Some teachers refer to this as having one brain in two bodies. Others call it tag team teaching. Most co-teachers consider this approach the most complex but satisfying way to co-teach, but the approach that is most dependent on teacher styles. The co-teaching models that best lend themselves to implementing the kit are one teach, one or more assist. For example, one staff member may lead the mystery bag or picture walk activity as a whole group, while the other staff members support the students. The second model of co-teaching is station teaching. Once a short whole group activity is complete, each staff member takes an activity from the lesson plan and students are divided into groups based on the number of staff. Students spend a few minutes at an activity with a staff member before rotating to the next activity until all students have had the opportunity to do all the activities for the day. The third model is alternative teaching. Some students may need extra time with the activities to develop the skills targeted. One staff member may take a group of students to do an activity again on another day, while another staff member is teaching another lesson, possibly material unrelated to the kit, to the rest of the group. The team can decide together the best models to use for co-teaching when using the kit, based on the staff's strengths, student needs, and physical space. Here are some final considerations for implementing the First Nations Storytelling Kit. First, the team should choose the book to start with. The books can be used in any order, and teams can choose one, two, or all 5 of the books in the kit. The team should read the lesson plan for the chosen book and gather materials from the kit and other materials needed, for example, chart paper or markers. The team should choose and prepare the invitations for play as outlined in the lesson plan, and also choose which resources they want to use from the Connections to Resources section and gather the materials needed. Now you are ready to use the First Nations Storytelling Lessons and Materials Kit in your classroom. Contact your MFNERC school speech language pathologist to start planning. Miigwech to the following people for their assistance in developing the kit: Kirby Gilman and Tashina Shanakapo, editors; Marlene Lenton, special education literacy coach and ELA curriculum consultant; Letitia Spence, graphic designer; the speech language pathology and literacy team at MFNERC for content consultants and production assistance, including painting and cutting laminating; and finally, my children for helping me to sort all the materials into the bins. Miigwech, Kinaskumitan, Kinanakomin, Padamai, Masi. Thank you for watching. If you have comments or questions, please email the speech language team at speechandliteracy@mfnerc.com.